As I sit down to share some fascinating tales from the depths of the internet, I'm excited to delve into the world of nuclear revenge, where the stories are as unpredictable as they are intriguing. Get ready to join me on a journey through the wild and wacky world of anonymous storytelling. Revenge on a hacker. One day, I get an email from a hosting provider telling me that attacks are being launched from our server, and I need to look into it. I find that there is indeed a hacker in our server. He was using an app to anonymously control his bot network, among other things. I looked at the app he was using and discovered that it was an open source project. I then downloaded the code for this backdoor, modified it to log everything to a file, and replaced his app with my honeypot version. Over the next 6 months, I collected every scrap of information I could on this guy. I then used that information to take over many of his online accounts, including his main email account. That was the account where he had registered all of his services to, so I was able to issue password reset requests for everything he owned. I gained control of 6 other email accounts, 24 IRK accounts, his Facebook page, his dating profile, numerous websites, and the backup site he used for his cell phone. I have his phone number, his mom's number, and his girlfriend's number. I know his address, his birthday, the schools he went to, even his favorite foods and music. After I took every single online account he had ever had away from him, I sent a nasty email to his ISP in an effort to extort yet more information from them. In that email, I said some very unkind things about the monarch of Indonesia and how I might smear the monarch publicly if I didn't get the information. The hacker disappeared immediately after that. I have looked for him at times over the last 15 years since, and he has not resurfaced. The Indonesian lèse majesté laws regarding insults to the monarchy are not to be trifled with. The prison term for such an offense is 15 years. And now for the next story. Got fired, reported them to OSHA, and destroyed a family business and made them leave town. So a while back, I had been hired to be the marketing person for a family business. It was a fitness equipment liquidator that had been founded by a gold medalist Olympian. He had fallen into some mental health issues and had delegated his wife to take over the business. She didn't have the experience but took the reins anyways, and she and her children ran the place, albeit with some success. So this is where I come in. The first red flag I should have seen was that she was trying to screw over the recruiter by wanting us to do a side deal to pay me technically less, but still more than I would have gotten without the recruiter as the middle person. But I was in bed and I didn't think too much about it. The next thing was how embedded the family aspect was in this business, that there was basically no distinction between the employees and family affairs being wrapped up in their work environment too. But I was just happy to finally be in a space where I felt welcome and almost love-bombed by the CEO, who treated me like one of her own children. Always lots of hugs and even kisses during good morning meetings, as if we were coming downstairs for breakfast. Meetings ended up turning into brainstorming sessions because the CEO's children and the workers were so scatterbrained and didn't want to commit to any specific plans of action. And I was basically on my own when it came to any marketing of anything, because nobody would actually participate if it came down to it. About a month or so into it, I get ambushed by the CEO and her daughter, who was like the operations person technically or something. Both were wondering why we hadn't achieved as much as I had wanted to. And when I explained that I didn't really receive much help or participation from anyone, suddenly it became all about blaming me for everything wrong, and why sales were down, and why nothing was exponentially growing, as she had hoped they would. I explained what actions I had taken, and that I was doing exactly what I said I was going to do. It wasn't my fault nobody wanted to help when they said they would. It didn't matter. They wanted me gone because they expected the moon in 3 weeks' time with zero budget and zero help from anyone else. So I just left. I want to add in, I did a lot while there. I automated a lot of their processes that they were doing by hand. Set up Salesforce and Slack, as well as setting up and handling Zendesk and a ticketing system, and even automating a lot of POA processes so that from card tap to accounting. It was all smooth and seamless, and I made tons of things very efficient for them and improved productivity while there. But none of that mattered, of course. They wanted double the sales from basically social media posting and nothing else. While I was there, I had documented tons of OSHA violations, exposed wires where customers would walk, ADA violations, customer safety violations, Forklifts operated with zero certification and no PPE, and having employees standing on top of the forks just to reach the warehouse ceiling. With no safety anything. Structural violations. You name it, they did landlord special type fixes, and left things in often worse states than before. I made the call, and sent OSHA photos of what I had documented, which I had only documented in the event of needing to use it. Never actually expected it to come to that. But I did. After talking with them, it was explained to me that there was months-long processes to get actions to be taken, even with evidence. The penalties for the violations I had evidence for were financially crippling fines I knew they wouldn't be able to handle. And after months of checking every now and then, I got confirmation action was taken. Then a couple months later, I drove past the warehouse showroom and saw that it was abandoned. Broken letters, overgrown grass in the parking lot, boarded up windows and doors. For lease, all gone and dilapidated. While I was placing those calls, I was also reaching out to my realtor friend who is super good at what she does, saying that we should time it right so after these fines and penalties that she can drop literature off at their door until they're convinced to sell. She didn't do it in time, but she did catch wind that the house had been sold and sold fast. Their website was 440, and they basically packed their bags and left. I still can't believe it worked, but sometimes in life we have to accept that we are the karma that someone has coming to them. Goodbye, Amy, wherever you and your family left to. We're even. And now for the next story. Guy behind me in traffic was blinding me in traffic with his high beams, so I violated his retinas with the full force of an afternoon sun. I was driving home from work, and traffic was backed up pretty badly for a few miles. It was stop and go. When I get stuck in that, I'll usually back about 75 feet off the car in front of me, so that I can hold a pace and move at a slow but constant roll. This way I'm not participating in the bumper-to-bumper move and brake like the rest of the smooth brain drivers. Some dude in an Acura crossover was behind me, and I guess he was getting upset because I wasn't 2 feet from the car in front of me, driving like a smooth brain. So, he gets up on my butt and starts beeping his horn at me. Lol, I think to myself as I turn up my radio. But then he starts flashing his brights at me, which is where I get annoyed. He's in one of those Acuras that has the super bright LED headlights. My car is much lower than his, so his low beams are already pretty bright in my mirrors. Bright enough that I don't want to look in them. The first time he flashed his high beams, it put spots in my vision for a moment. It genuinely hurt my eyes. After the first flash, he waits for about 10 seconds, beeps his horn, and then flashes me again. Now, I'm getting pissed. I'm thinking, where the fuck do you want me to go? Do you really think being 2 feet from the car in front of you will make traffic move faster? Then he flashes me a third time, but this time he held them on for about 15 seconds. Time for the gloves to come off. During those 15 seconds, as I'm looking away from my mirrors, I see my 14,000 lumen searchlight sitting in my passenger seat, at which point I'm immediately overcome by a wave of chaotic lawful excitement. What he has just set in motion cannot be stopped. I think to myself, oh, buddy, you just opened the wrong can of worms. You're gonna learn today. I grab the flashlight and set it to its absolute max 14,000 lumen brightness setting. The flashlight has a sensor in it to automatically dim the light if facing down on a table, because otherwise the diodes would get so hot they would melt the lens. The 14,000 lumen setting is so intense, the 57 watt-hour battery can only hold it for 180 seconds before the flashlight automatically notches down to a measly 9,500 lumen. During those 180 seconds, the light will burn through 15% of its battery power. For reference on just how bright this is, the literal fucking sun emits a luminosity of 11,000 lumens per square foot on a bright and clear day. I turn around and aim it straight out the back of my rear window. My car is pretty noisy, so before I turn it on, I rev up my engine to make sure Captain Smoothbrain is eyes forward when I violate his retinas with the full force of an afternoon sun. I hit the power button and can only imagine the freight train of shock and pain that plowed over this man. It was so bright, his automatic headlights shut off because the car thought it was daytime. With the light on, I could see him clear as glass through his tinted windshield. He was covering his eyes and looking down, probably screaming. I watched him try and flip down his sun visor, but his hand couldn't find it, as I thought to myself, burn you motherfucker. Burn. I imagine my facial expression was similar to that of a 6-year-old roasting insects with a magnifying glass on a bright summer day. After about 5 seconds of blinding light, I took mercy and shut it off. He proceeded to back way the hell off and move over to a different lane. Was this an unsafe thing for me to do? Absolutely. Was this illegal? Almost certainly. Was it warranted? Without question. Possibly the highlight of my year. Drive safe, and don't be a dick to the car in front of you. Because they might just have the tools to teach you a lesson. Too long. Didn't read. Dickhead in traffic was excessively flashing his high beams at me, hurting my eyes. Because I couldn't go faster than the car in front of me. So I showed him how it feels. Please note, the contents of this post are my intellectual property and are protected under common law, company patent. You're right, any unauthorized dissemination of this post without my explicit permission is common law company p. You're infringement. And now for the next story. Kill my cat? Get smashed. This is a story from my childhood. I lived in a small suburban neighborhood in the 90s. We had 2 dachshunds we kept in a backyard fence, and 3 cats that just roamed our 18-acre corner lot in my subdivision. Of the 3 cats, Magic was the matriarch. She was a big, fat, black cat that didn't really run from any neighborhood cats or dog. Our neighbors across the street had a pit bull that they would let roam the neighborhood. It was never aggressive towards me or my friends, but also was not a friendly dog. We just stayed away from it when playing in the woods. One day that pit bull charged my cat while I was in the yard playing. It began to whip its head back and forth, shaking Magic, and I ran in to get my dad. We didn't have a gun for home defense. My dad kept a 4-foot-long, galvanized steel rod that was about an inch thick next to the door, though. I've never seen him move that fast. He was on that dog in about 5 seconds flat. I remember seeing him strike the dog probably 3 times before it let go of Magic. My dad said, "Come here, Doxy. We are going to the neighbor's house." He was pissed, shaking. When I got closer, I could see that the dog's skull was completely smashed. You could see blood and gray matter. It was gnarly. Its eye socket was also smashed. He picked up the dead dog, walked with me to the owner's house. The man answered the door and said, "What did you do to my dog?" And my dad said, "The same goddamn thing I'm gonna do to you if this happens to one of my kids." They never got another dog. We never saw them again, and they moved about a year later. Edit. I might be lost. I felt like the nature of dragging the bloody dog back to the owner and threatening them with the same for killing the cat was revenge, but maybe not. I also always get these comments about animal cruelty and being a psycho or something when I've posted this story on Reddit before. I don't think you all understand how much this marked me. I focused on facts in this post, not feelings, because the feelings are very painful. It was 30 years ago now, and I can still remember very minute details of the scene. And I remember going on a roller coaster from terrified I was going to die, to scared my dad was going to die, to scared sad about Magic and the dog, to scared about confronting the parent, and then to a deep mourning for my favorite cat. Even to this day, it's the best cat I've ever had. Not sure why you expect this to be some kind of morality tale. It's just what happened. Like and subscribe for more awesome daily Reddit content. And don't forget to hit the bell to get notified when I upload new videos.